Invisibility is a superpower when you know how to use it. Rich men don't look at waitresses. We're furniture with pulses, extensions of the silverware, present but unseen. At the Gilded Lily, Chicago's most exclusive private dining club, that invisibility kept me alive. It also meant I saw everything. The hand that slipped over the wine decanter, the tiny vial palmed between manicured fingers, the iridescent violet shimmer as the powder dissolved into $1,200 Bordeaux. I counted the grains in my mind. 1 second, 2 seconds, calculating the exact dosage. Enough to turn a CEO into a breathing corpse. Enough to trap a man inside his own body while his empire burned around him. I should have walked away. Should have refilled water glasses and collected my paycheck and gone home to my daughter. But I watched Jun Soo-yoon reach for that glass. Watched his fingers close around the stem. And I made a choice that would destroy everything I'd built to stay hidden. The November rain hammered Chicago's loop, with the kind of violence that turned streets into rivers and sent taxis hydroplaning through intersections. Inside the Gilded Lily, the city's cold fury couldn't reach. Here, in this converted railroad baron's mansion on East Wacker Drive, warmth pooled like honey beneath crystal chandeliers. Gaslight-style sconces cast amber shadows across mahogany paneling. The air tasted of old money, aged whiskey, and secrets that cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. It was a dangerous place for a fugitive to work. But the Gilded Lily was the only high-end establishment in the loop that paid entirely in cash and didn't run digital background checks. It was the only place a ghost could make rent. Rachel Benjamin pushed through the kitchen's swinging doors, her tray balanced with the muscle memory of 3 years spent invisible. The heat from the kitchen clung to her skin, mixing with the scent of seared wagyu and black truffle risotto. Her feet ached inside the regulation black Oxfords, but she'd learned to compartmentalize pain the same way she'd learned to compartmentalize everything else. Survival required it. Being a single mother working under a stolen identity required it even more. At 29, Rachel had perfected the art of disappearing. Black vest buttoned over a crisp white shirt, hair pulled into a bun so tight it erased any hint of personality, posture just deferential enough to signal service without servility. She moved through the dining room like smoke, present when needed, invisible when not. 3 years of this. 3 years of carrying plates to men who discussed millions over appetizers while she calculated whether she could afford her daughter's field trip fee. But tonight felt different. She couldn't name what had shifted in the room's atmospheric pressure, but her instincts, honed by years of reading biotech labs for contamination risks and reading men for danger signs, screamed awareness. She'd learned to trust that internal alarm system. It had saved her life once before, when she'd walked away from Helix Corp 30 seconds before security came to arrest her for stealing her own research. Rachel glanced toward the main entrance while setting down plates of Kumamoto oysters at table 6, her hands steady despite the tension coiling through her shoulders. That's when she saw him. Jun Soo-yoon entered the Gilded Lily the way apex predators entered territory they already owned. No announcement needed. At 34, he moved with the kind of economy that suggested every gesture had been calculated for maximum impact. His charcoal Tom Ford suit fit like a second skin across shoulders that spoke of disciplined violence, not gym vanity. Dark hair swept back from a face that balanced brutal elegance with something ancient and uncompromising. Ink crawled up his neck from beneath his collar, traditional Korean imagery that marked him as both old world and dangerous. But it was his eyes that made Rachel's breath catch. Dark, relentless, always calculating. They swept the room in one comprehensive scan that cataloged exits, threats, opportunities. The gaze of someone who'd learned young that survival meant seeing everything first. Rachel had served powerful men before. Chicago bred them like a factory. Hedge fund sociopaths, political fixers, tech billionaires, still high on their own mythology. But Jun Soo-yoon occupied a different category entirely. She watched the maître d' straighten his spine in unconscious deference. Watched the sommelier appear without being summoned. Watched the subtle ripple of tension move through the staff like electricity through water. This wasn't wealth. This wasn't even influence. This was fear dressed in a $5,000 suit. Rachel knew exactly who he was. Yoon Global, the Korean biotech conglomerate currently acquiring Helix Corp in a hostile takeover. She'd spent 6 months obsessively tracking every player in that merger, every executive who might recognize her face from her former life. Junsu's photograph had burned into her memory during those paranoid research sessions. The Dragon of Seoul, they called him, the youngest CEO to ever weaponize pharmaceutical patents into a corporate empire. the man whose company now owned every formula she'd ever created, including the ones that could destroy her. She watched from her position near the bar as he was escorted toward the private dining room in the back, the Vanderbilt room, reserved for guests who valued discretion above atmosphere. The room seated 12 but had been set for 5 tonight. Rachel had drawn the assignment 2 hours ago, when Marcus, the floor manager, had pulled her aside with unusual gravity. Table 1 tonight, Rachel. Impeccable service. Absolute discretion. We clear? She'd understood. Some tables required more than skill. They required silence. Now, as she prepared the wine service and checked the table settings one final time, Rachel forced her breathing to steady. Her daughter Maya was home with Mrs. Rodriguez, the neighbor who watched her for rates Rachel could barely afford. Maya would be asleep by the time Rachel's shift ended, bathed and storied and tucked in by someone else. Again, the guilt sat in her chest like a stone, heavy and immovable. But guilt was a luxury she couldn't afford. Every hour she worked here was an hour toward the nursing program acceptance letter hidden in her apartment. Every tip went into the envelope beneath her mattress, slowly accumulating toward a future where she could use her real name again, where she could be more than a ghost. She just had to stay invisible, stay quiet, stay safe. The private dining room felt smaller than its actual dimensions. Intimacy achieved through calculated design rather than lack of space. Burgundy walls absorbed light from the single-statement chandelier, creating shadows that pooled in corners like spilled ink. The table could seat 12 but had been dressed for 5, each setting positioned with geometric precision. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Wacker Drive, but heavy velvet curtains could seal the room from the outside world completely. Junsu sat at the table's head, back to the wall, a position that gave him sightlines to both the entrance and the windows. His fingers rested on the stem of a water glass he hadn't touched, and his eyes tracked everything with the patient focus of someone who'd learned to read violence in the spaces between words. 3 men occupied the other seats, their conversation pausing as Rachel entered. "Good evening, gentlemen." Her voice hit the professional sweet spot, pleasant without warmth, attentive without personality. "May I offer wine while you wait for your final guest?" "Wine," said the man to Junsu's left, a silver-haired executive in his 50s whose custom suit couldn't quite hide the softness of inherited wealth. "Vincent Carmichael, according to the reservation. Helix Corp's outgoing CFO, the Chateau Margaux, the 2015. Rachel nodded, moving to the wine station with practiced efficiency. She felt their eyes assess her, dismiss her, return to their conversation. Good. Invisible was exactly where she needed to be. As she decanted the wine with steady hands, their voices created a low-frequency backdrop, carefully coded references to market positioning and strategic asset consolidation that anyone with biotech experience recognized as corporate predation dressed in business casual language. She'd heard these conversations before, back when she'd attended them instead of serving them. She didn't care about their business. She cared about pouring wine, collecting her paycheck, going home to Maya. But something made her glance at Jun Soo-yoon as she filled his glass. He wasn't participating in the conversation. Instead, he was watching her with an intensity that made her fingers tighten imperceptibly on the bottle. His expression revealed nothing. No hostility, no interest, just observation, the kind of watching that cataloged details and filed them away for future use. Rachel met his eyes for a fraction of a second before looking away, professional mask locked in place. She finished the pour and retreated to her station near the entrance, ready to respond but otherwise invisible. The final guest arrived 17 minutes later. Anthony Adams entered with apologies about traffic, shaking rain from his Burberry overcoat. Mid-30s, with the polished confidence of generational wealth and Harvard law, his handshake with Junsu seemed warm, almost fraternal, and he took the seat to Junsu's right with easy familiarity. "Sorry I'm late." Anthony accepted the wine Rachel poured. "Rain has the Kennedy backed up to O'Hare." "No concern." Junsu's voice was smooth, controlled, the first time Rachel had heard him speak. "We were just discussing the transition timeline." Rachel returned to her position, but something nagged at her attention. She couldn't identify what exactly. Maybe the way Anthony's smile didn't reach his eyes, or the subtle tension in his shoulders despite his casual demeanor. Or maybe it was how the other men's conversation had shifted when he arrived, becoming more performative somehow. She pushed the thought aside. Not her business, not her concern. The dinner proceeded with the careful choreography of high-stakes dining, Rachel brought courses, hamachi crudo, butter-poached lobster, dry-aged ribeye that cost more than her monthly rent. She refilled glasses, cleared plates, responded to requests with efficient professionalism. The men's conversation flowed around her like white noise, their words sliding past without leaving impression. Except Jun Soo-yoon kept watching her. Not obviously, not in a way the others would notice. But Rachel had spent years reading subtle cues, the microscopic shift in posture that meant someone needed something, the slight turn of a head that indicated readiness for the next course. Junsu's attention on her was different. Assessing, curious, almost. It made her nervous in a way she couldn't name. The incident happened during the main course. Rachel was refilling water glasses, moving counterclockwise around the table. She'd developed a rhythm to service, efficient but unhurried, present but unobtrusive. As she reached for Junsu's glass, she noticed Anthony Adams reaching across the table. Except he wasn't reaching for anything on the table. The movement was subtle, practiced. His hand passed over the wine decanter for less than 2 seconds, barely noticeable. But Rachel saw the tiny vial palmed in his hand, saw the almost imperceptible tilt as something fell into the deep red wine with a shimmer that made her blood go cold. Violet, iridescent, unmistakable. Anthony's face never changed. His other hand was pointing to a merger document spread on the table, drawing Vincent's attention to some clause. The entire action took perhaps 3 seconds. Rachel's heart stopped. Time slowed to syrup-thick seconds as her mind raced through impossibilities. She could be wrong. Maybe she'd imagined it. Maybe it was something innocent. Medication. A supplement. But that shimmer. That specific refractive quality when it hit oxygen. She knew that compound. She'd spent 8 months perfecting it in a Helix Corp cleanroom. Compound 88. A neurotoxin so precise it could induce locked-in syndrome. Full consciousness. Zero motor function. A chemical prison that turned the human body into a tomb while the mind screamed inside it. And she was watching Jun Soo-yoon reach for the glass, his fingers closing around the stem. Her hands didn't shake as she continued around the table. Years of waitressing had trained her body to move on autopilot, while her mind calculated frantically. Call for help. No time. Alert Junsu directly. That would put her in the middle of something that could destroy her. Walk away. Let him drink. Let him become a breathing corpse. Let whatever corporate war this was play out without her. The image of Maya flashed through her mind. 6 years old, missing her 2 front teeth, obsessed with marine biology and bedtime stories. Maya, who needed her mother alive and invisible and safe. But Rachel also saw Junsu's face, the human being about to drink poison, unsuspecting. Her body made the decision before her conscious mind caught up. As she circled back to Junsu's position, Rachel's elbow caught the edge of his water glass. It was a perfectly executed accident, clumsy enough to be believable, forceful enough to ensure the glass toppled directly into his lap and across the table toward the wine. Ice water cascaded across Junsu's suit and splashed into his wine glass. Oh my God. Rachel's shock was genuine, even if the action wasn't. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Junsu stood immediately, brushing ice from his lap. The conversation at the table stopped dead. Vincent laughed, a booming sound that broke the tension. Occupational hazard, my friend. But Junsu wasn't laughing, his dark eyes fixed on Rachel with an intensity that made her breath catch. Not angry, exactly. Surprised, maybe, and something else she couldn't identify. Something that looked almost like recognition. It's fine, he said quietly, his voice carrying an edge that silenced Vincent's laughter. Accidents happen. Let me get towels, Rachel said, already moving toward the kitchen. I'll bring fresh linens and replace your wine immediately. In the kitchen, her hands finally shook as she grabbed napkins. Marcus appeared at her elbow, face creased with concern. What happened? I spilled water on table 1, Rachel said, fighting to keep her voice steady. I need fresh linens and a new wine glass. Marcus's eyes widened. On Mr. Yoon? It was an accident, she said firmly. I'll handle it. She returned with towels and a fresh place setting, acutely aware of all eyes on her. Junsu had resumed his seat, expression unreadable. Again, my deepest apologies, sir, she said, laying out fresh linens. Let me get you fresh wine. As she reached for the contaminated glass, Junsu's hand moved, quick and precise, catching her wrist, not painfully, but firmly enough to stop her motion. Rachel froze, pulse hammering against her ribs. "Leave it," Junsu said softly, his eyes locked on hers. "It wasn't a request." Rachel nodded, stepping back. She watched, heart racing, as Junsu pushed the wineglass to the side, out of easy reach. Then he turned his attention back to the table, back to business, as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. Rachel knew it. And from the sudden tension in Anthony Adams's shoulders, the slight pallor beneath his tan, he knew it too. The dragon had seen the poison, and now he was looking at the woman who'd saved him, his gaze dark with questions that could destroy everything she'd built to stay hidden. "Welcome back, my fierce hearts and midnight dreamers. Before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed, hit that like button, and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing our little dark romance family stretch across cities, countries, and time zones. Every click, every comment, every bit of love you leave here helps us keep unraveling these dangerous love stories and high-stakes betrayals together. So find your quiet place, dim the lights, and get ready. Let's begin." 3 years ago, Rachel Benjamin had been someone else entirely. Someone with a real name, a corner office, and a security clearance that gave her access to compounds that could rewrite human neurology. Someone who'd made the mistake of being brilliant in a system that rewarded theft over innovation. But that was before Helix Corp., before the patent war, before she'd grabbed her daughter and disappeared into the kind of poverty that made people invisible, before she'd learned that sometimes the only way to survive predators was to become prey so insignificant they forgot to hunt you. Now that invisibility was shattered. Junsu's grip on her wrist burned like a brand as he pulled her through the kitchen. Not painful, but absolute. His fingers circled her bone with the kind of control that suggested he knew exactly how much pressure separated restraint from damage. The kitchen staff parted like water, eyes carefully averted. Marcus opened his mouth to protest, saw Junsu's face, and closed it again. The November rain hit them the moment they stepped into the alley. Cold and punishing, it soaked through Rachel's vest in seconds, plastering her white shirt to her skin. Junsu didn't seem to notice. He walked with purpose toward a black Mercedes SUV idling at the alley's mouth, its windows tinted dark enough to be illegal. The rear door opened before they reached it. Not by Junsu's hand, but by someone inside. Someone watching. Rachel's survival instincts screamed. Getting in that car meant crossing from public into private, from witnessed into disappeared. She dug her heels into the wet pavement, water pooling around her cheap shoes. Junsu stopped, turned, looked at her with those dark, assessing eyes. "You can walk in," he said quietly, his accent barely perceptible, soul polished smooth by years of American business schools. "Or I can put you in. Your choice. I didn't do anything wrong." "No." Something flickered in his expression. Not quite amusement. "You did something very right. That's the problem." He guided her into the SUV with a hand at the small of her back, a gesture that might have looked courteous to anyone watching. But Rachel felt the steel beneath the civility, the promise of force held in reserve. The interior smelled of leather and something darker, gun oil, maybe, or the particular chemical signature of someone who understood violence intimately. The door closed behind them with the heavy finality of a vault ceiling. The driver didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge their presence, just pulled smoothly into traffic, the rain-slicked streets reflecting neon and headlights in rivers of light. Junsu sat across from her in the rear-facing seat, close enough that their knees almost touched in the confined space. The proximity was deliberate, Rachel knew, designed to intimidate, to crowd, to make her feel the weight of his attention. It worked. "Who sent you?" His voice was conversational, almost pleasant. That made it more terrifying. "No one sent me. I work there. I'm a waitress." "You're a liar." He said it without heat, stating fact. Waitresses don't recognize military-grade neurotoxins by sight. They don't calculate dosage ratios in 3 seconds. They don't commit deliberate sabotage with that kind of precision. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, closing the distance between them until Rachel could smell his cologne. Something expensive and clean with an undertone of cedar. "So let's try again. Who sent you, and what do they want?" Rachel's heart hammered against her ribs, but she forced her voice steady. 3 years of hiding had taught her how to lie. "I didn't sabotage anything. I spilled water. It was an accident. An accident." Junsu's lips curved. Not quite a smile. "You crashed into a table with enough force to knock over a glass, but not enough to disturb a single document. You aimed the spill to contaminate my wine specifically. Not the Bordeaux. Not the water pitcher. Not any of the other glasses within reach. That's not clumsiness. That's training. Damn. He'd seen everything. Catalogued every detail while she'd thought him distracted. I saw him, Rachel said, changing tactics. The truth, or at least part of it. Your general counsel. I saw him put something in your wine. Junsu went very still. The kind of stillness that predators achieved before striking. What did you see? A vial. Small. He palmed it, tipped powder into the decanter while everyone was distracted. It had a shimmer to it. Violet. Iridescent. That's not normal. That's not roofies or some amateur bullshit. That's engineered. And you know this how? The question hung between them, sharp as a blade. Rachel weighed her options. Lie, and he'd see through it. Tell the truth, and she'd expose herself to the man whose company had been hunting her for 3 years. She chose a middle ground. I used to work in pharmaceutical research. Before, I recognized the refractive properties. That compound is a paralytic. Specifically, it induces locked-in syndrome. Full consciousness, zero motor function. You drink that, you become a prisoner in your own body, while someone else controls your empire. Junsu stared at her for 3 heartbeats. Then he laughed. The sound was dark, humorless, and somehow more frightening than his earlier calm. Impressive, he said. You identified Compound 88 from a 3-second glimpse in low light. Most toxicologists would need a spectrometer. He tilted his head, studying her with renewed intensity. You want to know something funny? I saw it too. Rachel's stomach dropped. I've known Anthony was compromised for 6 weeks. I've been taking microdoses of the antidote to build immunity. Tonight was supposed to be the endgame. I drink the poisoned wine. I feign paralysis. I see who he calls. Then I destroy them. Junsu's voice went soft, deadly. But you ruined it. You spilled my wine, destroyed the evidence, and alerted Anthony that I know. 3 months of planning. Gone. Because you decided to play hero. I didn't know. No, you didn't. He leaned back, the leather creaking under his weight. Which makes you either incredibly brave or catastrophically stupid. I haven't decided which. His eyes held hers, dark and unreadable. So now you owe me a debt. You cost me my traitor. You're going to help me find out who he's working for. I have a daughter. I can't just disappear. Then you should have thought about that before you crashed into my table. Junsu pulled out his phone, typed something with quick, precise movements. Your daughter Maya is 6 years old. She's with Mrs. Rodriguez tonight. Apartment 4C, building on Ashland and Division. She likes marine biology and stories about sharks. She's missing her front teeth. Rachel's blood turned to ice. How do you... I know everything about everyone in that restaurant the moment I decide they're relevant. You became relevant the second you touched my wine glass. He pocketed his phone. Mrs. Rodriguez will keep Maya overnight. She'll be paid triple her usual rate and told you had to work a double shift. Your daughter will be safe, fed, and asleep by 9. You, however, are coming with me until we figure out what happens next. And what if I refuse? Junsu's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the air between them. A door closing. A choice made. You're too smart to refuse, he said quietly. Because you know I'm not the villain in this story. You saw Anthony poison me. You saved my life. Whether I wanted you to or not, that makes you complicit. That makes you a liability. And in my world, liabilities either become assets or they become problems. He paused. I don't think you want to be a problem. Not when Maya's safety depends on you making smart choices. It wasn't a threat. Threats were louder, cruder. This was a statement of reality, delivered in the same tone someone might use to discuss weather. Rachel looked at the tinted windows, at the city sliding past in the rain. She thought about Maya's laugh, about the envelope under her mattress, about 3 years of running. She thought about the man across from her, who'd seen poison coming and drunk it anyway, who moved through the world like violence personified. Where are we going? She asked, her voice steady despite the fear. My penthouse. We're going to figure out exactly who you are, Dr. Benjamin. And then we're going to decide if you're worth keeping alive. The SUV turned north, heading toward the towers that dominated Chicago's skyline, toward a world Rachel had left behind, toward answers she wasn't sure she wanted. And across from her, Jun So-yoon watched her with eyes that missed nothing, calculated everything, and promised consequences she couldn't yet imagine. The penthouse occupied the entire top floor of a glass tower overlooking Lake Michigan. Junsu's security escorted them through a private elevator that required both biometric scan and key code, the kind of redundant protection that suggested paranoia born from experience. The doors opened directly into his space. No hallway, no buffer between public and private. Rachel stepped into a world of cold luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the storm raging over the lake, lightning forking across black water. The interior was all clean lines and brutal minimalism. White marble floors, black furniture, art that looked expensive and deliberately uncomfortable. No photographs, no personal touches. A fortress designed by someone who trusted nothing and no one. "Wait here." Junsu disappeared into an adjoining room, leaving Rachel alone with a security guard who stood by the elevator like a statue. Young, Korean, with the ramrod posture of military training. He didn't look at her, didn't acknowledge her presence. Just stood there, a reminder that she wasn't free to leave. Rachel's wet shoes squelched on the marble. Her shirt clung to her skin, translucent now, her black bra visible beneath the white fabric. She crossed her arms over her chest, shivering less from cold than from the reality of her situation. She'd walked into a trap baited with her own good intentions. Junsu returned wearing different clothes, black jeans, a charcoal sweater that emphasized the breadth of his shoulders. He dried his hair, combed it back. The informality made him look younger, more dangerous somehow. The tattoos on his neck were fully visible now. Traditional Korean imagery that wrapped around his throat like a collar. Dragons and peonies and something that might have been flames. He tossed her a towel and a bundle of fabric. "Bathroom's there. Change. We need to talk, and I'd prefer you weren't dripping on my floor." The bathroom was larger than Rachel's entire apartment. White subway tiles, heated floors, a rain shower that probably used more water per minute than she used in a week. She dried off, peeled out of her sodden uniform. The clothes he'd given her were men's. A white t-shirt and black sweatpants, both too large. She had to roll the waistband twice to keep them up. No bra, no underwear that fit. She felt exposed, vulnerable. When she emerged, Junsu was standing by the windows, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Korean. He glanced at her, his eyes tracking from her bare feet to her damp hair, and something flickered in his expression. Then he turned back to the storm, finishing his conversation in a tone that suggested he was giving orders, not taking them. He ended the call, pocketed the phone, faced her. "You said you recognized the compound. Prove it." "I told you what it was. I don't believe you." He moved closer, each step deliberate. "Because the compound you described doesn't exist in any public database. It's classified military research. Level 5 clearance. Less than a dozen people worldwide have seen the formula. So either you're lying about what you saw, or you're lying about who you are." He stopped inches away, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. "Which is it, Dr. Benjamin?" Rachel's breath caught. He knew her real name. Not the fake identity she'd been using at the restaurant. Her real name. "How long have you known?" "Since I ran your photo through facial recognition during the car ride." Rachel Benjamin, formerly lead chemist at Helix Corp's Special Projects Division. Specialization in neuropharmacology, with emphasis on cognitive enhancement and targeted paralytic agents. You disappeared 3 years ago, 48 hours before federal investigators raided Helix for patent fraud. Warrant out for your arrest. Corporate espionage, theft of intellectual property, industrial sabotage. He paused. "But what interests me is what you took when you ran. Because my forensic accountants have been trying to reverse engineer those formulas for 3 years, and they can't. The research notes you destroyed were the only copies. You're the ghost chemist, the one who got away." "Your company stole my research," Rachel said, her voice low and fierce. "Every compound I developed, Helix sold to the highest bidder without crediting me, without compensation beyond my salary. They erased my name from every patent application. So yes, I destroyed the notes. Yes, I ran. Because I wasn't going to help them weaponize my work. Noble." Junsu's tone suggested he found nothing noble about it. "Also stupid. You're worth 8 figures to me, Dr. Benjamin. Dead or alive. Preferably alive, since I need that brain intact." He stepped back, giving her space to breathe. "But here's your problem. The wine you spilled on my table? I need to know what was in it. You claim it was your Compound 88, but I need proof." Because if Anthony poisoned me with something you invented, that means you're connected to whoever's trying to take me down. And that makes you either an asset or a threat. Rachel's mind raced. The wine was gone, soaked into linen and mopped up by restaurant staff. No evidence remained. Except my apron. It splashed on my apron. Junsu's eyes narrowed. You're sure? I felt it. Cold, wet, on my hip. Some of it hit my apron before I moved. She met his gaze. Get me a basic chemistry setup. Household items will do. I can analyze the residue. And if you're lying, if you're stalling, then you'll know. And you can do whatever you think you need to do. She lifted her chin. But I'm not lying. I saw what I saw. And if that compound is in my wine stain, you'll have your proof. For a long moment, Junsu studied her. Then he pulled out his phone, sent a text. My chef has the items you need. You have 30 minutes. The kitchen was professional grade. All stainless steel and imported appliances. The chef, a petite woman with silver-streaked hair, had already laid out the basics. Bleach, vinegar, baking soda, hydrogen peroxide, food coloring, pH strips, and a collection of small glass containers. She left without a word when Junsu dismissed her. Rachel stood at the marble counter, staring at her wine-stained apron. Her hands trembled slightly as she cut a section of the fabric, dropped it into a glass dish. She could feel Junsu watching her from across the kitchen island, his focus absolute. She worked in silence, muscle memory taking over. Mix the reagents, control the variables, observe the reactions. The compound she'd invented 3 years ago had a specific chemical signature when exposed to oxidizing agents. If it was present, the solution would turn a particular shade of blue, cobalt blue, distinctive and unmistakable. She added the final reagent. Waited. The solution turned green. Rachel stared at it, her stomach dropping. That's impossible. What's impossible? Junsu's voice came from directly behind her. He'd moved silently, his chest nearly touching her back as he looked over her shoulder. It's not compound 88. It's... She ran the test again, triple-checking her work. Same result. Green. Not blue. It's not a paralytic. It's a genetic marker. Bioluminescent tagging compound. Military grade. Meaning? Meaning Anthony wasn't trying to paralyze you. He was marking you. For tracking. Satellite imaging. Probably. This compound binds to DNA, makes your cells light up under specific wavelengths. Someone could track you anywhere in the world. She turned to face him, suddenly aware of how close he was. She could smell his skin, clean and warm. Could see the flecks of amber in his dark eyes. Someone's coming for you. Not to kill you. To take you. Junsu's jaw tightened. Who has access to genetic markers? Government agencies. Black ops divisions. People who make problems disappear quietly. She paused. You said you knew Anthony was compromised. You didn't say by whom. I thought corporate espionage. Rival company trying to steal the Helix merger. His eyes held hers. But this isn't corporate. This is something else. How did you recognize it so fast? The difference between a paralytic and a marker? He was still standing too close, his presence overwhelming in the confined space of the kitchen. Most chemists would need days of analysis. Rachel's heart hammered. This was the moment. Lie and maintain her cover, or tell the truth and expose herself completely to the man whose company had been hunting her. Because I invented them both, she said quietly. Compound 88 and the genetic marker. They were part of the same research project at Helix. Neural mapping and targeted tracking. I developed them simultaneously. I know the chemical signature of every compound I've ever created. She held his gaze. I'm not just the ghost chemist you've been looking for, Junsu. I'm the scientist who built half the biological weapons your company is trying to reverse engineer, including the one that just got slipped into your wine. The silence stretched between them, charged and dangerous. Then Junsu smiled. It was a terrible thing, beautiful and predatory. Well, he said softly, this just got interesting. Junsu made 3 phone calls in rapid succession, his Korean sharp and commanding. Rachel understood enough of the language to catch the key words. Anthony Adams, immediate location, containment, not elimination. He was mobilizing his security apparatus, the network of eyes and resources that made him dangerous. When he finished, he looked at her. Anthony is running. He left the restaurant 10 minutes after we did. Credit card shows a charge at a gas station near O'Hare. He's trying to flee the country. You can track his credit cards? I can track everything. He moved to a laptop sitting on the coffee table, opened it. The screen displayed a map of Chicago with various dots pulsing in red. My people are already moving to intercept, but I need you with me. Why? Because you understand the science. If Anthony tagged me, he's working for someone who needs me alive and traceable. That's either government or something worse. I need to know which. Rachel's phone buzzed in her pocket, the cheap burner she used for emergencies. She pulled it out. A text from Mrs. Rodriguez. Maya asleep. All good. Weird someone paid me extra, though? She looked up to find Junsu watching her. I keep my promises, he said. Your daughter is safe. But you're staying with me until this is resolved. I never agreed to that. You agreed the moment you spilled my wine. His voice was gentle, which somehow made it worse. You're involved now, Rachel, whether you want to be or not. They took a different car this time. A black Audi sedan with tinted windows, and a driver who looked former military. The rain had lessened to a drizzle, the city streets reflecting streetlights in wavering ribbons of gold. Junsu sat beside her in the back, his thigh pressed against hers in the confined space. He was typing on his phone, coordinating his people with the efficiency of someone accustomed to command. How many people work for you? Rachel asked. Enough. He didn't look up from his phone. Yun Global employs 14,000 people across 6 countries. But my personal security network? That's smaller. More selective. More illegal, you mean? Now he looked at her, one eyebrow raised. I operate in gray areas. My father taught me that the law is a framework for people who can't afford to write their own rules. His eyes held hers. Does that bother you? Yes. Good. You should be bothered. You should be terrified. You're in a car with a man who could make you disappear and no one would ask questions. Your survival instinct should be screaming. It is. Then why aren't you fighting? Because fighting won't save me, Rachel thought. Because men like you don't respond to resistance. You respond to value. And right now, I'm valuable. Because you need me, she said aloud. And I need you to find out who's using my research to hunt you. That makes us temporarily aligned. Junsu smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his face. Smart. I like smart. They found Anthony Adams in a parking garage near O'Hare's International Terminal. Junsu's people had boxed him in. 3 cars, 6 men, all dressed in dark suits that screamed private security. Anthony stood beside his Mercedes, hands visible, face pale beneath the fluorescent lights. Junsu exited the Audi with lethal grace, Rachel following a step behind. The garage smelled of motor oil and exhaust, every sound echoing against concrete. Anthony. Junsu's voice carried across the space, conversational. Going somewhere? Anthony swallowed hard. Junsu, listen. I can explain. Explain how you poisoned me? Explain how you've been selling intelligence to my enemies? I'm listening. Junsu stopped 10 feet away, hands in his pockets. Relaxed. Dangerous. It's not what you think. Anthony's eyes darted to the security personnel, calculating odds. I'm not your enemy. No? Then what are you? CIA. Anthony said it like a confession. I'm CIA. I've been embedded in your organization for 2 years, monitoring your activities. The tagging compound was meant to track you, yes. But not for corporate espionage. For national security. Rachel felt the world tilt. Junsu's expression didn't change. Explain. Your merger with Helix Corp. The biotechnology you're acquiring. Someone in your organization is selling it to hostile foreign entities. Weapons-grade compounds. Neurotoxins. Genetic markers. All of it. The intelligence community believes you're either complicit or compromised. I was ordered to tag you to determine your involvement. I tried to tell them you were being framed. I had the logs showing the chairman's override codes, but my superiors wouldn't listen. They ordered the tag. They wanted to see where you would run when the pressure hit, and you chose tonight to do it? During the merger signing? Because tonight your chairman approved a shipment to Pyongyang. 3 cases of neurological bioweapons. That's not corporate expansion, Junsu. That's treason. The chairman. Junsu's mentor, his father figure. The man who'd built Yun Global from nothing and had groomed Junsu to inherit the empire. Rachel watched Junsu's face carefully. Saw the moment the information landed. saw the betrayal flicker behind his eyes before he locked it down. "You're lying," Junsu said softly. "I have documentation. Financial transfers, shipping manifests, communications between your chairman and North Korean intermediaries. He's been using your name, your clearance codes. As far as anyone official knows, you're the one selling weapons to terrorists." Junsu was silent for a long moment. Then he laughed, the sound bitter and cold. "Clever. Frame the heir, protect the legacy. When did he start?" 6 months ago, right after your quarterly medical exam." "My medical exam?" Junsu's voice went flat. "What does that have to do with anything?" Anthony glanced at Rachel, then back to Junsu. "You don't know." "Know what?" "Your chairman has been covering it up. The diagnosis. The reason he's been pushing experimental treatments. Junsu, you have a hereditary degenerative brain condition. Early stage, manageable with the right treatment, but progressive. Your chairman's been selling bioweapons to North Korea. Not for money. He has plenty of that. He's trading for raw materials. Rare synthesized isotopes that are illegal in the West but necessary for the experimental cure he's building." The silence in the garage was absolute. Rachel watched Junsu's face, saw the careful control crack, saw the vulnerability beneath the armor. "That's impossible," Junsu said, but his voice lacked conviction. "The microdoses you've been taking? They're not antidote to paralytic. They're experimental neural stabilizers. Your chairman convinced you they were immunity boosters, but they're keeping your brain chemistry balanced. Without them, you'd start showing symptoms within weeks. Memory loss, motor control issues, eventually, total cognitive collapse." Junsu's hand went to his pocket, where he kept his pill case. Rachel had seen him take one in the car, a small gesture she dismissed as habit. "How long?" Junsu asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "The chairman's been funding research for 8 months. He's convinced he can cure you, but the treatments he's pursuing aren't legal. They're not ethical. And they require resources that don't exist on the legitimate market." Anthony stepped forward, hands raised. "I'm not your enemy, Junsu. Your chairman is. He's destroying your reputation, selling weapons to terrorists, and bankrupting your company's ethics to save your life. And he doesn't care who dies in the process." Junsu stood frozen, processing. Then he turned to Rachel. "Is it possible? What he's describing?" Rachel's mind raced through the science. "Hereditary degenerative brain conditions are rare but real. If it's what I think it is, neural stabilizers would slow progression. And yes, experimental treatments exist, but they require specific resources, genetic samples, stem cells from donors with rare immunity markers." She paused, dread coiling in her stomach. "What exactly is the chairman researching?" Anthony pulled out a tablet, pulled up files. "Proprietary neural regeneration. The donor requirements are highly specific. Rare genetic anomaly, found in less than 0.001% of the population. He acquired Helix Corp specifically to access their employee health records and genetic database. He's been searching for a compatible donor." Rachel's blood turned to ice. She knew that genetic anomaly. She'd been tested for it during her employment screening at Helix. She'd been negative, but Maya hadn't been tested. "What's the anomaly?" she asked, her voice steady despite the terror clawing at her throat. Anthony read from the screen. "Variant CCR5 Delta 32 with secondary ApoE epsilon 4 mutation. The combination makes the donor's neural tissue resistant to degenerative conditions," Rachel finished, "and allows their cells to be harvested for transplant without rejection." She looked at Junsu. "The donor has to be a child. Adult cells don't work." "How do you know that?" "Because I helped develop the protocol. Years ago, before I understood what Helix was planning to use it for." Junsu stared at her, then at Anthony. "Does the chairman have a donor?" Anthony nodded slowly. "He found one, 3 weeks ago. Employee records from Helix Corp. Former employee, actually. Dr. Rachel Benjamin." He looked at Rachel. "Your daughter." The world tilted. Rachel's daughter. Maya, with her missing teeth and her love of sharks and her bright, beautiful brain. Maya, who carried Rachel's blood and a genetic gift that made her worth more than money. "Where is she?" Rachel's voice was calm, empty, the calm before violence. Junsu grabbed her arm. "Your neighbor's apartment. You said she was safe." "The chairman's team deployed 20 minutes ago," Anthony said. "I tried to warn you, but you weren't answering your phone. They're extracting the child now. Rachel ran. Junsu caught her before she reached the garage exit, his grip iron on her wrist. Wait. You can't just… Let me go. Rachel's voice was lethal, stripped of everything except maternal rage. Let me go or I'll hurt you. You'll get yourself killed. He pulled her back, both hands on her shoulders now. The chairman's security is professional. You run in there alone, you die, and then who saves your daughter? I don't care. Yes, you do. He gave her a small shake, forcing her to focus. You care because if you die, Maya has no one, so you're going to breathe, and think, and let me help you. Rachel stared at him, chest heaving, saw something in his eyes that looked almost like understanding, like he knew what it felt like to have everything balanced on a knife's edge. Why would you help me? Because the chairman betrayed me, because he's using my company to traffic weapons, because apparently I'm dying and he didn't tell me. Junsu's jaw tightened, and because he's going after a child. Your child. That crosses a line even I won't cross. Anthony approached cautiously. The extraction team is at the apartment now. If we move fast, we can intercept them before they get her to the airport. But we need to go now. Junsu released Rachel, already moving toward the Audi. Where are they taking her? Private airfield in Gary, Indiana. 40 minutes from here. We can make it in 20. Junsu opened the car door, looked back at Rachel. Get in. We're ending this tonight. The drive was a nightmare of speed and silence. Junsu made calls, repositioning his security, coordinating with Anthony's CIA contacts. Rachel sat frozen in the back seat, her mind racing through scenarios. All of them ended with Maya afraid, alone, being taken by strangers who saw her as raw material. She thought about the protocol she'd helped develop, the neural harvesting process. It wasn't fatal, technically. They'd take spinal fluid, bone marrow samples, a small portion of neural stem cells from the brainstem. The donor would survive, but the procedure was invasive, painful, traumatic, and Maya was 6 years old. Tell me about the chairman, Rachel said, her voice distant. Junsu glanced at her. What do you want to know? Why he'd do this? Why he'd risk everything? Because he loves me. Junsu said it simply. He raised me after my parents died, taught me everything I know about business, about survival. He built Yun Global, and he built me. To him, I'm not just his protege. I'm his son, his legacy. And he'd sacrifice a child to save you, apparently. Bitterness laced his voice. I always knew he was ruthless. I didn't know he was a monster. There's a difference? Junsu looked at her for a long moment. I think you know the difference. You saved my life tonight. You didn't have to. You could have walked away. But you didn't. That's the difference between ruthless and monstrous. Ruthless protects what's theirs. Monstrous doesn't care what it destroys. They arrived at the corporate headquarters of Yun Global. A glass tower in the loop. 60 stories of steel and ambition. Junsu's private elevator took them directly to the executive floor, where the chairman kept his office. The confrontation happened in a boardroom designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, rain still falling against the glass. A long mahogany table dominated the space, expensive art on the walls, and at the head of the table sat the chairman. Lee Sang-min was in his 70s, but age hadn't softened him. Silver hair swept back from a face carved from stone, eyes sharp and calculating. He wore a three-piece suit like armor, his hands folded calmly on the table as Junsu and Rachel entered. Junsu. The chairman's voice was warm, paternal. I wasn't expecting you tonight. Who's your guest? Dr. Rachel Benjamin, the ghost chemist you've been hunting. Junsu walked to the table, stood opposite his mentor. And the mother of the child you just had kidnapped. The chairman's expression didn't change. Strong words. Do you have proof? I have Anthony Adams in custody. He's singing like a goddamn opera. Weapons, sales, illegal research, human trafficking, all authorized under my name, using my clearance codes. Junsu leaned forward, hands flat on the table. You framed me. You're destroying everything we built. I'm saving your life. The chairman said it calmly, as if stating fact. You have less than 2 years before the condition becomes symptomatic. 5 years before cognitive collapse. I'm not going to watch you die, Junsu. I won't. So you kidnap children? Traffic bioweapons to terrorists? I do what's necessary. The chairman stood, moved to the windows. You're young. You don't understand yet what it means to love someone more than your own soul. To watch them dying and know you have the resources to save them, but society's laws say you can't. I'm not bound by their morality, Junsu. I'm bound by my love for you. Where is she? Rachel's voice cut through the room like a blade. Where is my daughter? The chairman turned, regarded her with the dispassion of someone evaluating livestock. The child is being prepared for transport. The procedure is scheduled for tomorrow morning. She'll survive. You'll get her back. You think I'll let you cut into my daughter's brain? I think you don't have a choice. The chairman returned to his seat, steepled his fingers. I control this building, this company, this city's infrastructure. You're a fugitive with a warrant. Junsu is a dying man who needs treatment. The child has genetic material that can save him. It's simple mathematics. She's 6 years old, Rachel said, her voice shaking with rage, and she'll be 7. 8. She'll grow up, live a full life. The procedure is minimally invasive. She'll experience some discomfort, but children are resilient. The chairman's tone was reasonable, as if discussing a minor inconvenience. Weighed against Junsu's life, it's an acceptable cost. Junsu was silent, his face carved from stone. Rachel watched him, waiting for him to speak, to defend her daughter, to show that he was different from this monster who'd raised him. No, Junsu said finally. The word fell like a hammer. The chairman blinked. Excuse me? I said no. You're going to release the child. You're going to shut down the research. And you're going to turn yourself in to federal authorities. Junsu, you're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking clearly for the first time in months. Junsu's voice was steel. You've been drugging me, lying to me, using my company to commit atrocities. You say you love me? This isn't love. This is obsession. This is control. He straightened. I don't want to live if it costs a child's trauma. I don't want your cure if it requires becoming the kind of man who destroys innocence. You'll die. Then I die. But I die as myself, not as your puppet. The chairman's face hardened. You ungrateful. He pressed a button on the desk. Security. Detain them. The doors opened. 4 men entered, armed, professional. Junsu didn't move. You're really going to do this? I'm saving your life. Even if I have to save you from yourself. Rachel's mind raced. 4 armed men, 1 exit, no weapons. The mathematics were brutal. But there was always another equation, another variable. You're making a mistake, she said to the chairman. The procedure you're planning? It won't work. I have the best scientists. You have scientists who are guessing. I designed the protocol. I know why it fails. She moved closer to the table, calculated and calm. The genetic material degrades during extraction. You need a live donor, continuously connected. You can't just harvest and transplant. You'd need to keep Maya hooked up to Junsu for weeks. Months, maybe. Is that what you want? To turn a child into a medical device? The chairman's eyes narrowed. You're lying. Am I? Check your research. Check the failure rates. Every trial ended with donor rejection or recipient psychosis. Because you're not just transplanting cells. You're transplanting neural patterns, memories, identity. You do this procedure, Junsu won't be Junsu anymore. He'll be a hybrid. Part himself, part 6-year-old girl. She let that sink in. Is that the son you want to save? Or do you just want to own something? The silence stretched. The chairman stared at her, calculating. She's telling the truth. Anthony Adams stepped into the room, flanked by 3 federal agents. We've been tracking your research. Every test subject either died or went insane. The procedure doesn't work. It never worked. You're chasing a ghost cure. The chairman looked at Junsu. At Rachel. At the agents now surrounding him. You'll die, he said to Junsu, his voice cracking. Without treatment, you'll die. Then I'll die human, Junsu said softly. Where's the child? The chairman crumbled then. The steel facade collapsed, leaving only an old man who'd lost everything. Airfield, he whispered. Hangar 7. They're loading her now. Junsu grabbed Rachel's hand. Let's go. They ran. The helicopter blades beat against the night air, a rhythmic thunder that drowned thought. Junsu piloted with the precision of someone who'd learned to fly before he'd learned to trust, and Rachel sat beside him in the co-pilot seat, her knuckles white against the safety harness. Below them, Chicago's lights gave way to the industrial sprawl of Gary, Indiana, a landscape of rust and abandonment, punctuated by the occasional working factory. Anthony's voice crackled through the headset. Hangar 7 is the third building from the north end. 2 vehicles in the lot. Heat signatures show 4 people inside. 1 child-sized. Armed? Junsu's voice was calm, focused. Assume yes, but they're corporate security, not military. They won't shoot unless cornered. Good. Junsu adjusted their approach, bringing the helicopter down fast. Because I'm about to corner them. They landed in the parking lot with enough force to crack asphalt, the helicopter's spotlight flooding the hangar entrance. Junsu killed the engine and was out before the blade stopped spinning, Rachel right behind him. The hangar door was steel, locked. Junsu pulled out his phone, typed something. The lock clicked open. Override codes, he explained. I own this airfield. Inside, the space was cavernous and cold. A private jet sat on the concrete, stairs deployed, engines warming up. 4 men in dark suits stood near the aircraft, and between them, held by the hand, was Maya. She looked so small, so scared. Her Disney backpack hung from one shoulder, her favorite stuffed shark clutched to her chest. When she saw Rachel, her face crumpled. Mama. Rachel ran. She didn't think, didn't calculate. She just ran, closing the distance between her and her daughter with every ounce of speed she had. The men moved to intercept, but Junsu was faster. He didn't attack, didn't threaten. He just stood between them and Rachel. His presence a wall. Stand down, he said quietly. This is over. Mr. Yoon, the chairman authorized. The chairman is under federal arrest, and I'm giving you a choice. Walk away now, or I destroy your lives. Financially, legally, professionally, every stock option, every retirement fund, every reference, gone. Junsu's voice was soft, deadly. Or you walk away, and tomorrow you wake up with a severance package that sets you up for life. No questions asked, no charges filed. The men looked at each other, looked at Maya, looked at Junsu. They walked away. Rachel dropped to her knees, pulling Maya into her arms. Her daughter smelled like strawberry shampoo and fear sweat, and Rachel buried her face in Maya's hair and shook with the force of relief. I thought you weren't coming, Maya whispered. They said you sent them to pick me up. But they were scary, Mama. They didn't smile right. I know, baby. I know. I'm so sorry. Rachel pulled back, checked her daughter for injuries. Did they hurt you? No, just scared me. Maya's eyes were huge, swimming with tears. Can we go home? Yes, we can go home. Junsu stood nearby, watching them with an expression Rachel couldn't read. When she looked up at him, he turned away, giving them privacy. Anthony arrived 10 minutes later with federal agents and Chicago PD. They secured the scene, took statements, processed the security team. The chairman would face charges: human trafficking, illegal weapons, sales, corporate fraud. Yoon Global would survive, but barely. The scandal would take years to overcome. Through it all, Rachel held Maya, unwilling to let her go. When the official interviews were done, Junsu approached them. He moved carefully, like someone approaching a wounded animal, knelt down to Maya's level. Hi, he said softly. I'm Junsu. I'm a friend of your mom's. Maya studied him with the brutal honesty of children. You have pictures on your neck. I do. They're called tattoos. Do they hurt? When they're being made, yes. But after, they're just part of you. Mama has a scar on her arm. She says scars tell stories. Junsu smiled, a real smile that transformed his face. Your mama is very smart. Scars do tell stories. They tell us we survived something hard. Maya considered this. Then she offered him her stuffed shark. This is Bruce. He protects me from bad dreams. Bruce is very fierce, Junsu said seriously, accepting the shark. Will he protect me too? Maybe. If you're nice to my mama. Junsu's eyes met Rachel's over Maya's head. I'll try to be. They drove back to Chicago in one of the federal vehicles. Maya asleep in the back seat, her head on Rachel's lap. Junsu sat up front, silent, staring out at the pre-dawn darkness. What happens now? Rachel asked quietly. Now, damage control, congressional hearings, probable criminal investigation into my involvement. Junsu's voice was tired. I'll probably lose the company, definitely lose the merger, everything I've built. I'm sorry. Don't be. You didn't cause this. I did. By trusting the wrong person. By not asking questions when I should have. He paused. And by being worth saving. Apparently. At least in the chairman's eyes. Are you? Rachel asked. Dying? Yes. He said it simply. The diagnosis is real. Hereditary neurodegenerative condition. Progressive. Fatal. I have maybe 3 years before symptoms become severe. And the treatment? There isn't one. Not a real one. Everything the chairman found was experimental, unethical, or impossible. I was dead the moment I inherited my father's DNA. He turned to look at her. But I'd rather die as myself than live as a monster. Your daughter helped me remember that. They returned to Junsu's penthouse as the sun rose over Lake Michigan, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold. Federal agents secured the building. But Junsu had convinced them to let Rachel and Maya rest before formal questioning. Maya woke up long enough to be fed cereal and tucked into the guest bedroom, surrounded by pillows that cost more than Rachel's monthly rent. She was asleep again in minutes, exhausted by fear and relief. Rachel found Junsu on the balcony, watching the sunrise. She stood beside him in silence, the morning air cold against her skin. The research notes, she said finally. The ones I destroyed when I ran from Helix. I have backups. Junsu looked at her sharply. What? I encrypted them, hid them in distributed storage. I wasn't going to let Helix weaponize my work, but I wasn't going to let it disappear either. It was years of my life, my legacy. She met his eyes. There's no cure for your condition in those notes. But there are treatments, legitimate ones, things that could slow progression, buy you time, maybe decades. Why are you telling me this? Because you chose my daughter over your own life. Because you're dying and you still have things worth living for. She paused, and because maybe together, we can do something good with the research. Something that isn't weapons or exploitation. Something that actually helps people. Junsu stared at her for a long moment. Then he smiled, sad and genuine. You're offering to save me, after everything. I'm offering to try. No guarantees. But I'm a good chemist, and you're a good man who made bad choices under impossible circumstances. That's worth saving. What do you want in return? Safety. Real identities for Maya and me. Enough money that I never have to choose between my daughter and survival again. She held his gaze. And a lab. A real one. Where I can work without looking over my shoulder. Done. Junsu extended his hand. Partners? Rachel took his hand. His skin was warm, calloused from work she couldn't imagine. Partners. They stood together as the sun climbed higher, burning away the night. Behind them, the city woke up. Ahead of them, an uncertain future. But for the first time in 3 years, Rachel felt something like hope. The federal investigation took weeks. Rachel and Maya were placed in protective custody, a safe house in suburban Evanston with agents rotating shifts outside. It was comfortable, sterile, and suffocating. Maya adjusted better than Rachel expected. Children were resilient that way, bouncing back from trauma with a speed that made adults jealous and ashamed. Junsu's situation was more complicated. Yun Global's board voted to suspend him pending investigation. The media feasted on the scandal. Korean CEO's mentor arrested for bioweapon trafficking, heir potentially complicit. Junsu's lawyers worked overtime, but the damage was done. His reputation, carefully built over a decade, crumbled in days. He called Rachel every evening, brief conversations about nothing important. How was Maya? Had Rachel been sleeping? Did she need anything? The questions were mundane, but beneath them ran a current of something deeper. Connection forged in crisis, tested by separation. But his voice grew rougher with each call. He'd flushed the chairman's stabilizer pills the night of the arrest, refusing to keep taking them now that he knew they were funded by child trafficking. Without them, the tremors were already starting. On the 17th day, Anthony Adams visited their safe house. It's over, he said, settling into the government-issue sofa. The chairman confessed to everything. Full cooperation. Junsu is clear. No charges. The company's board is voting tomorrow on his reinstatement. Rachel felt relief in something else. Disappointment, maybe. That it was ending. That they'd return to normal. What about us? The warrants. Dismissed. Your patent theft charges were filed by Helix Corp on the chairman's orders. With him in custody and the company under new management, they withdrew everything. You're free, Dr. Benjamin. You and Maya both. Free. The word should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, uncertain whether to step forward or back. That night, Junsu came to the safe house himself. It was late, past midnight, and Rachel had been unable to sleep. She was sitting in the kitchen, drinking tea and reading Maya's school forms, when he knocked. The agents let him in without question. He'd been cleared, vetted, approved. Couldn't sleep either? He asked, standing in the doorway like he was afraid to enter uninvited. Apparently not. She gestured to the chair across from her. Tea? They sat together in the quiet kitchen, drinking tea that tasted like cardboard. The silence was comfortable, intimate in a way that had nothing to do with words. I resigned, Junsa said finally. Rachel looked up sharply. What? From Yoon Global. Effective immediately. I recommended my COO for interim CEO. The board will ratify it tomorrow. Junsu, you can't. I can. I did. He set down his mug. I've been running that company since I was 23. Building it, defending it, sacrificing everything for it. And for what? So I could spend my last 3 years in boardrooms and conference calls, dying slowly while lawyers argue over patents? He shook his head. I don't want that. I want something different. What do you want? He looked at her. Really looked, his eyes dark and intense. I want to build something that matters. With someone who understands what it costs. He paused. I want to offer you a partnership. A real one. A lab, funding, complete autonomy. We take your research, the legitimate applications, and we develop treatments that actually help people. No weapons, no exploitation. Just science in service of healing. Rachel's heart hammered. That's a massive risk. My reputation is... Your reputation is that of a brilliant chemist who refused to let her work be weaponized. That's exactly the reputation I need. He leaned forward. I have money, Rachel. More than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. I have connections, infrastructure, resources. What I don't have is purpose. You can give me that. And I can give you the freedom to work without fear. This isn't just about science, she said it softly, acknowledging the thing neither of them had named. No. Junsu's voice was rough. It's not just about science. I don't know what it is yet, but I know I don't want it to end. This. Us. Whatever we're building. Rachel thought about Maya, asleep upstairs. Thought about 3 years of running, hiding, being afraid. Thought about Junsu's face when he'd chosen her daughter over his own cure. Where? She asked. What? Where would this lab be? Wherever you want. We can build it from scratch. Chicago, Seattle, Austin. Anywhere you feel safe. I want to be close to good schools. Maya's education matters. Junsu smiled. Done. Anything else? I want final say on all research directions. No board oversight. No investors pressuring for profit over ethics. Agreed. And I want a contract that protects Maya. If anything happens to me, she's taken care of. College fund, trust fund, everything. Already drawn up. My lawyers sent it yesterday. He pulled out his phone, showed her the document. Reviewed by independent counsel. Maya is protected for life, regardless of what happens to either of us. Rachel read the contract, her trained eye catching the legal protections, the escape clauses designed to prevent exploitation. It was generous. Too generous. Why? She asked. Why do all this? Junso set down his phone, reached across the table, his hand covering hers. The touch was electric, dangerous. Because 6 weeks ago, a woman I didn't know threw herself between me and death. She had every reason to walk away, to stay invisible, to protect herself. And she didn't. She chose to be seen. She chose to save me. His thumb brushed her knuckles. I'm dying, Rachel. I have 3 years, maybe less. I don't want to spend them alone. I don't want to spend them building empires I'll never see completed. I want to spend them with someone who understands what it means to risk everything for something that matters. I'm not going to watch you die and then move on, Rachel said, her voice breaking. I'm going to try to save you. I'm going to throw every ounce of my knowledge at your condition until I find something that works or I run out of time. That's what you're signing up for. I know. Junsu's smile was sad, beautiful. That's exactly what I'm signing up for. They sat there, hands linked across the cheap kitchen table, the future uncertain and terrifying and somehow full of possibility. Then Junsu's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression changed. We need to go. Now. What? Why? The chairman escaped federal custody 20 minutes ago. They think he's coming here. The world tilted. How? His lawyers got him transferred to a minimum security medical facility for his heart condition. He walked out during shift change. Junsu was already moving, pulling her toward the stairs. We need to get Maya and leave. The agents converged as Rachel ran to the bedroom. Maya was asleep, curled around her stuffed shark. Rachel scooped her up, and Maya woke confused, afraid. Mama? We're going on an adventure, baby. Right now. Don't be scared. Junsu was coordinating with the agents, his voice sharp and commanding. Extraction point is Grant Park. We have a helicopter waiting. The power cut. The house went dark, emergency lights flickering on after a 2-second delay. In that moment of blindness, Rachel heard it. The whine of electronics dying. The click of magnetic locks disengaging. Smart, Junsu muttered grimly. He cut the grid. The federal safety protocols force the maglocks to release during a power outage so people don't get trapped. He just walked right in. They moved toward the garage, but the door wouldn't open. The electronic locks had failed. They were trapped. Junsu pulled Rachel and Maya into the interior bathroom, the most defensible position in the house. The agents took up positions outside, weapons drawn. How long until backup? Rachel asked. 10 minutes. He only needs 5. Because the chairman knew this house, he'd probably designed the security protocols himself. They waited in the dark. Maya pressed between them, silent and shaking. Rachel could hear Junsu's heartbeat, fast and steady. Could feel the heat of his body, the tension in his muscles. I'm sorry, he whispered. This is my fault. He's coming for me. No, he's coming for all of us, for his legacy. Rachel held Maya tighter, but he's not getting it. The bathroom door exploded inward. Not with force, but with gas. White chemical fog that stung eyes and throat. The chairman had come prepared. Junsu shoved a wet towel at Rachel. Cover Maya's face. Don't breathe it. They stumbled out into the hallway, blind, choking. The chairman was there, silhouetted against the emergency lighting. He looked ancient, broken, and absolutely determined. Junsu, he said, his voice cracking. I can still save you. Come with me. Let me finish what I started. You started trafficking children. Junsu's voice was raw from the gas. You started destroying everything I built. I started trying to save your life. The chairman moved closer. You're dying. You're dying and you're too proud to accept help. But I won't let you die. I won't. Then you'll have to shoot me, because I'm not going with you. The chairman raised a gun. Not pointed at Junsu. Pointed at Rachel. Her. Then. She has the research. She can synthesize the treatment. Give her to me, or I shoot her and take the child anyway. Time slowed. Rachel saw Junsu's eyes, saw the calculation there, saw him weighing her life against his freedom. She saw the moment he chose her. Junsu stepped between her and the gun. No, you want me? Take me. But you leave them alone. Junsu, Rachel grabbed his arm. Get Maya out, he said quietly. That's an order, Dr. Benjamin. The helicopter arrived before Rachel could argue. Federal agents rappelled through the skylight, moving with military precision. The chairman was subdued, arrested, dragged away, screaming about saving his son. Junsu collapsed the moment the threat was gone, his medical condition exacerbated by stress. They rushed him to Northwestern Memorial, where doctors stabilized him but confirmed what they all knew. The degenerative condition was accelerating. He had less time than anyone thought. Rachel stood by his hospital bed, Maya asleep in the chair beside her, and made a decision. I'm taking you somewhere safe, she said when Junsu woke. Somewhere the chairman can't reach, where I can work without interruption, and I'm not taking no for an answer. Junsu smiled weakly. Where? My safe house. The one I built 3 years ago when I ran. The one no one knows about. You'd trust me with that? Yes. Rachel took his hand. I'd trust you with everything. The safe house was a converted lighthouse on the Michigan coast, 3 hours north of Chicago. Rachel had bought it under a shell company years ago, sinking the last of her legitimate savings into it before she ran. It had sat empty for 3 years. A frozen asset she couldn't sell or visit without triggering the financial alerts that would lead Helix right to her. The structure was stone and steel, built to withstand Great Lakes storms, isolated enough that neighbors were measured in miles rather than feet. Junsu was stable but weak when they arrived. Maya chattering nervously in the back seat about the ocean and sharks and whether lighthouses had ghosts. Federal agents had escorted them to the property line, then withdrawn. The chairman was back in maximum security, his lawyers' tricks exhausted. They were safe. For now. The interior of the lighthouse was sparse. Furniture covered in sheets, windows overlooking gray water that stretched to the horizon. Rachel had stocked it years ago with non-perishables and basic supplies, never imagining she'd return with a dying man and a terrified daughter. She settled Maya in the upstairs bedroom with her tablet and snacks, extracting a promise that she'd stay put and yell if she needed anything. Then she returned downstairs to find Junsu standing by the windows, his reflection ghostly in the glass. "It's beautiful," he said quietly. "Lonely, but beautiful. It was supposed to be temporary, a place to hide until I figured out my next move." Rachel stood beside him, their shoulders almost touching. "I never thought I'd bring someone here. I'm honored." He turned to look at her, his face drawn with exhaustion. "And I'm sorry. For all of it. For the chairman. For dragging you into my nightmare." "You didn't drag me. I jumped." She met his eyes. "And I'd do it again." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Junsu's hand found hers, his fingers threading through hers with an intimacy that felt both natural and terrifying. "I need to set up a lab," Rachel said, not pulling away. "Analyze your blood work, review the chairman's research, see what's salvageable. But the equipment I need, already ordered." Junsu pulled out his phone with his free hand, showed her a list. Medical-grade centrifuge, spectrometer, refrigerated storage, all the basics. Arrives tomorrow. "I may be dying, but I'm still rich." "You're not dying." Rachel squeezed his hand. "Not if I have anything to say about it." They spent the evening making the lighthouse habitable. Junsu moved slowly, his condition sapping his strength, but he insisted on helping. They uncovered furniture, aired out rooms, prepared dinner from the emergency supplies. Maya helped, her 6-year-old energy a bright spot against the tension. After Maya fell asleep, Rachel and Junsu sat in the lighthouse's main room, a fire crackling in the stone fireplace. Rain had started again, drumming against the windows in rhythms that sounded almost like music. "Tell me about your daughter's father," Junsu said, his voice careful. Rachel was quiet for a moment. "He was a mistake. A colleague at Helix, brilliant, charming, married. I was young and stupid, and thought we had something real. When I got pregnant, he wanted me to terminate. I refused. He cut all contact." She stared into the fire. "Maya doesn't know him. She asks sometimes, but I tell her the truth. Some people aren't built to be parents. And that's okay, because I'm built to be enough for both of us." "You're more than enough." Junsu shifted closer, the space between them shrinking. "She's lucky to have you. I'm the one who's lucky. She saved me. When I ran from Helix, when everything fell apart, she was my reason to keep going, to not give up." Rachel looked at him. "What about you? Any children hidden away somewhere?" "No. I never wanted to bring a child into my world. Too dangerous, too much risk." His eyes held hers. "I told myself it was practical, but maybe I was just afraid of caring about someone that much. And now I'm dying, so it doesn't matter." But the way he said it, the way his thumb brushed over her knuckles, suggested it mattered very much. Rachel leaned into him, her head finding his shoulder. He was warm, solid, real. His arm came around her, holding her against his chest where she could hear his heartbeat. Steady, strong, alive. "I meant what I said," she whispered. "I'm going to save you. And if you can't, then I'll hold your hand while the world ends. And I won't let you be afraid." Junsu's other hand came up, tilting her face toward his. His dark eyes searched hers, asking a question without words. Rachel answered by closing the distance, her lips finding his in a kiss that tasted like smoke and desperation and hope. It wasn't gentle. It was 3 weeks of tension, fear, and denied attraction crashing together. Junsu's hand slid into her hair, angling her head as he deepened the kiss. Rachel's fingers found the buttons of his shirt, needing to feel skin, to confirm he was real and here and alive. He broke the kiss, breathing hard. "Rachel, I'm dying. You shouldn't. Don't tell me what I should or shouldn't want." Her voice was fierce. "I want you. I want this. I want whatever time we have, even if it's measured in months instead of years. You deserve better than a dying man. I deserve to make my own choices, and I choose you." She kissed him again, softer this time. Now shut up and take me upstairs before I change my mind. Junsu laughed, the sound rough and genuine. He stood, pulling her up with him, and they climbed the spiral stairs to the master bedroom. The room was small, dominated by a bed with a view of the lake. Rain streaked the windows, the storm building in intensity. They undressed each other slowly, reverently. Rachel traced the tattoos on Junsu's chest and arms. Dragons and peonies and Korean characters she couldn't read. Each one told a story, marked a moment. His body was lean, strong, beautiful in the low light. Junsu's hands on her were gentle, worshipful. He mapped the curves of her body with his fingers, his lips following. He paused at a scar on her shoulder, a chemical burn from her lab days. Battle scar, she whispered. Beautiful. He kissed it, then moved lower. They came together with a kind of desperate tenderness. Two people who'd survived too much to take anything for granted. The world outside disappeared. No chairman, no disease, no fear. Just skin and breath and the electric connection between them. Afterward, they lay tangled together, listening to the rain. Junsu's fingers traced patterns on her shoulder, his breath warm against her neck. I love you, he said quietly. I know it's too soon. I know it's complicated, but I need you to know. Before time runs out. Rachel turned to face him, her hand cupping his cheek. I love you too, and we're going to have more time, I promise. But as she drifted into sleep, wrapped in his arms, she couldn't shake the fear that some promises were impossible to keep. The next morning, Rachel woke to find Junsu unconscious. Not sleeping, unconscious. His breathing shallow and rapid, his skin clammy with sweat. She checked his pulse, felt it racing irregularly, and panic clawed at her throat. Maya. She grabbed her phone, dialing 911 with shaking hands. Maya, I need you to stay in your room, okay? Don't come downstairs. The paramedics arrived within 20 minutes, loading Junsu into the ambulance. Rachel rode with him, holding his hand, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep. Maya sat small and scared in the ambulance's jump seat, clutching her stuffed shark. At the hospital, doctors confirmed what Rachel already knew. Junsu's condition was deteriorating faster than expected. The stress of the past weeks had accelerated the neurodegeneration. Without aggressive treatment, he had weeks, maybe days. There's an experimental trial, the neurologist said, pulling Rachel aside. Stem cell therapy combined with neural regeneration protocols. It's risky, unproven, but it's the only option. The chairman's method relied on a continuous biological bridge, barbaric and dangerous, the doctor explained. But using the synthetic bridge outlined in your encrypted notes. Dr. Benjamin, we can achieve the same result with just a simple stem cell harvest. No continuous connection needed. Do it, Rachel said without hesitation. It requires a compatible donor. The genetic markers are extremely rare. Test me, test Maya, test everyone. Rachel's voice was steel. Whatever it takes. The tests came back within hours. Rachel wasn't compatible, but Maya was. Her genetic anomaly, the same one the chairman had hunted, made her the perfect donor. The procedure wasn't the nightmare the chairman had planned. It was FDA approved, ethical, involving only a small bone marrow sample. Maya would experience discomfort but no lasting damage. But she'd still have to undergo anesthesia, still have to face pain. Rachel knelt before her daughter, taking her small hands. Baby, I need to ask you something very important. Junsu is very sick. He needs special cells from your body to help him get better. The doctors would need to do a small procedure. It would hurt a little, but you'd be asleep, and when you woke up you'd be helping save his life. She paused. But you get to choose. It's your body, your choice. And whatever you decide, I love you. Okay? Maya looked at her mother with those impossibly wise 6-year-old eyes. Will it save him? Like you saved him at the restaurant? Yes, baby. It could save him. Then I want to do it. Junsu is nice. And he makes you smile. Maya squeezed her mother's hands. Plus, he said I could name his next company after a shark. I want to make sure he keeps that promise. Rachel pulled her daughter into a fierce hug, tears streaming down her face. You are the bravest person I know. The procedure was scheduled for the next morning. Rachel stayed with Junsu through the night, watching him sleep in the sterile hospital room. She worked on her laptop, analyzing his blood work, reviewing research papers, building treatment protocols for after the transplant. Junsu woke near dawn, his eyes clearer than they'd been in days. Maya agreed, Rachel said softly. The transplant is this morning. Junsu's face crumpled. I can't let her. She wants to. And the procedure is safe. FDA approved, minimal risk. She'll be uncomfortable for a few days, but she'll be fine. Rachel took his hand. Let her save you, Junsu. Let us save you. He pulled her down, kissing her forehead. I don't deserve either of you. Too bad. You're stuck with us. The transplant took 3 hours. Rachel spent them in the surgical waiting room, drinking bad coffee and wearing a path in the linoleum. Federal agents had stationed themselves outside. The chairman's escape attempt had made them paranoid. Junsu's lawyers came and went, handling the media storm that had erupted when news of his hospitalization broke. When the surgeon finally emerged, Rachel's heart stopped. Both procedures went perfectly, Doctor, Martinez said, pulling off her surgical cap. Maya is in recovery, asking for juice. Junsu's body is already showing positive response to the stem cells. It'll take weeks to know if the treatment is working long-term, but initial signs are excellent. Rachel's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the waiting room chair, relief flooding through her so intensely it hurt. Can I see them? Maya first. She's asking for you. Her daughter was small and pale in the recovery bed, but her eyes were bright. Mama, they gave me the good juice, the kind with bubbles. Rachel kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her nose. You're so brave. So brave. Did it work? Is Junsu going to be okay? The doctors think so. It'll take time, but yes, he's going to be okay. Thanks to you hung unspoken between them. Junsu was in the ICU, still sedated but stable. Rachel stood by his bed, watching the monitors track his vital signs. She thought about the man who'd entered the Gilded Lily 6 weeks ago. Dangerous, controlled, dying. And she thought about the man he'd become. Vulnerable, fierce, worth saving. The recovery was brutal. Junsu spent 2 weeks in the hospital, fighting through post-transplant complications. Rachel moved into his room, working from a laptop in the corner, coordinating with the medical team. Maya visited daily, bringing drawings and stories, and an endless supply of shark facts. The chairman was sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms in a supermax facility. No parole. Yoon Global's board voted unanimously to remove him from any future involvement with the company. Anthony Adams testified at the trial. His CIA cover blown, but his conscience clear. Junsu stepped down as CEO, transferring leadership to his COO. He kept majority shares but withdrew from daily operations. Some called it weakness. Rachel called it wisdom. 6 months later, they stood in a renovated warehouse in Ann Arbor, Michigan, the new home of Nexus Bioethics, their joint venture. The lab was state-of-the-art, funded by Junsu's liquidated assets and Rachel's reclaimed intellectual property. They'd assembled a team of researchers committed to developing treatments without exploitation, to advancing science without weaponization. The grand opening was small, private. Maya cut the ribbon with oversized scissors, grinning gap-toothed for the cameras. Federal regulators toured the facilities, gave their approval. Helix Corp's new management sent a congratulatory statement and a sizable grant. That evening, they returned to the lighthouse. It had become their home. Maya enrolled in the local elementary school, Rachel commuting to the lab 3 days a week. Junsu working remotely. The isolation suited them. The peace healed them. Rachel prepared dinner while Junsu helped Maya with her homework at the kitchen table. The scene was so domestic, so normal, it made her chest ache. This was what she'd fought for. This quiet, this safety, this family she'd built from the wreckage of her old life. After Maya went to bed, Junsu opened a bottle of wine. The same vintage from that night at the Gilded Lily, Chateau Margaux, 2015. He poured 2 glasses, handed one to Rachel. She took it, studied the deep red liquid. Should I be worried? Always. Junsu's eyes sparkled. But not tonight. Rachel swirled the wine, inhaled its bouquet. Tannins, oak, fruit, no metallic tang, no shimmer, just wine. She took a sip, let it roll over her tongue. Safe, she whispered, handing him the glass. Junsu drank, maintaining eye contact. When he lowered the glass, he smiled, the real smile, the one that transformed his face from dangerous to devastating. Thank you, he said, for everything, for seeing me, for saving me, for giving me a reason to want to live. Thank you for letting me. Rachel moved closer, her hand finding his. For trusting me with your life. With your future. Our future. Junsu pulled a small box from his pocket, opened it to reveal a ring. Simple, elegant, a diamond set in platinum. Marry me. Not because I'm dying. The doctors say I'm in full remission. Marry me because I can't imagine waking up without you. Because Maya deserves a father who shows up. Because I love you more than I thought I could love anything. Rachel stared at the ring, tears blurring her vision. She thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago. Invisible, afraid, running. And she thought about the woman she'd become. Seen, brave, building something that mattered. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. Junsu slid the ring onto her finger, pulled her into a kiss that tasted like wine and promises, and the future they'd fought so hard to claim. Outside, the lighthouse beam swept across the dark water, guiding ships safely home. Later, they stood on the lighthouse balcony, wrapped in blankets against the November cold. The lake was calm tonight, stars reflected in its surface like scattered diamonds. Do you ever regret it? Junsu asked. Spilling that wine, saving me, everything that came after. Rachel leaned into him, his arms solid around her shoulders. She thought about the terror, the danger, the moments when she'd been sure they'd lose everything. And she thought about Maya's laughter, about the lab they'd built, about the man beside her who'd chosen love over death. Not for a second, she said. You were worth saving. So were you. Junsu kissed the top of her head. We saved each other. Below them, the lighthouse beam continued its eternal rotation. A warning, a promise, a light in the darkness for anyone brave enough to navigate toward it. And inside, Maya slept, dreaming of sharks and science and a future bright enough to chase away any shadow. If you loved the chemistry between the chemist and the dragon, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay dangerous, stay curious, and remember, sometimes the most powerful love stories begin with a single act of courage.